There's something almost ancient about the marathon, something that makes it feel less like a sport and more like a ritual, a kind of modern pilgrimage, performed not with candles or chants, but with running shoes and quiet determination. It starts long before race day, long before you pin a number to your chest. It begins in the weeks and months when no one is watching, when the mornings are earlier than you'd like, when the long runs spill into hours, and when you start to realise that the training is not just preparing your legs for the distance, it's preparing your mind for the truth that the marathon doesn't care who you pretend to be. It only meets the person you actually are. Most people know the story, a messenger running from Marathon to Athens, delivering a message of victory before collapsing. Whether it happened exactly like that doesn't really matter. What matters is what the story symbolises, the idea that a human being, pushed to the absolute edge of their ability, can still carry something important forward. When you run a marathon, you become part of that lineage. You join a chain of people who have, through centuries, tested themselves against a distance that seems almost arbitrary, yet somehow reveals something essential about the human spirit. The marathon has always been like that, a blend of the historical and the accidental, the legendary and the logistical. But the distance feels right. Long enough to test everything, long enough to break you down, but long enough to rebuild you. When you train, you imagine the race in clean, simple terms. Your breathing steady, your legs strong, your pace predictable. But the marathon is never predictable. It's long enough for life to happen during it. It's long enough for your mind to wander into places you didn't expect, for memories to return from years ago, for doubts to surface that you thought you'd buried. It's long enough to test not just your endurance, but your identity. The early miles often feel like a gift. Your body is fresh, your heart is light, and the energy of the crowds lifts you into a rhythm that almost feels effortless. But even here, in these opening kilometres, the marathon whispers a reminder: pace yourself. Respect the distance. Because everyone feels strong in the beginning, and the marathon doesn't ask who you are at kilometre 5. It asks who you are at kilometre 35, when the noise fades, when the legs stiffen, when the question inside you becomes louder than the cheers around you. And then, somewhere deep into the race, you meet the wall. Not always with drama. Sometimes it appears gently, almost politely, as if asking permission to enter your race. Other times it arrives like a storm, sudden, heavy, unavoidable. There's a moment, and every marathoner knows it, when your body begins to negotiate with your mind, when your legs feel foreign, when the world narrows and the time slows down into the sound of your own breathing. This is the moment where the myth ends and the truth begins. Because the wall is not the distance defeating you, it is the distance revealing you. This is where philosophy becomes not an academic subject, not something you read in a quiet room, but something you live. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." When your energy drains and your body starts pleading for relief, the wall becomes the way. It becomes the doorway into a deeper part of yourself, the part that isn't motivated by excitement or pride, but by something quieter, the decision to keep going simply because you said you would. Epictetus taught the only things we truly control are our intentions and our actions. Not the weather, not the course, not the fatigue, not the pain, but the next step. That is under our control. And in the marathon, one step can be enough. One step can carry through the doubt. One step can hold back the fear and reconnect you to the reason you're out there in the first place. And that reason matters, because nobody runs a marathon accidentally. There's always something behind it, a story, a memory, a loss, a hope. Some run to honour someone. Some run because they've searched for a version of themselves they haven't met yet. Some run because they're tired of feeling stuck. Some run because they believe or want to believe that they can still surprise themselves. And the marathon, unlike many things in life, rarely disappoints. It might not give you the time you hoped for or the perfect race you imagined, but it will show you something true about yourself if you're willing to listen. The crowds help in ways you don't fully understand until you're in the middle of it all. Strangers shouting your name, children reaching out for high fives, volunteers handing you water as though they've known you for years. It's one of the few places in modern life where thousands of people gather not to compete for attention or argue or divide, but simply to support one another in the act of trying. There's something profoundly human about that. It makes you feel less alone. It reminds you that even though running is personal, it's never truly solitary. And then, eventually, there comes a point when the finish line appears. Sometimes you see it far ahead, a distant banner shimmering through tired eyes. Sometimes it appears suddenly around a corner, almost catching you off guard. But whenever it arrives, it hits you in a way you could never fully prepare for. You realise in that moment why the marathon matters. Because the finishing line is not a measurement of how fast you are. It's a confirmation that you've endured. It's proof that when it became hard, you didn't stop. You kept moving. You held on to that small, quiet part of yourself that refused to surrender. Crossing the finishing line is emotional for reasons that have nothing to do with the race itself. It's emotional because of everything you carried to get there. The early mornings, the doubt, the setbacks, the small victories, the long runs that left you both exhausted and proud. It hits you because the marathon is honest, brutally honest, and you survived its honesty. You answered its questions, and you learned something about yourself that no one can take away. In the end, the marathon is a mirror. It reflects back the person you are when comfort disappears. It shows you what endurance feels like, not just in the legs, but in the heart. And once you've seen yourself in that mirror, once you've faced that distance and walked through its fire, you don't think of yourself the same way again, because you learn that limits are often quieter and more flexible than we think. And that possibility, real possibility, is something you earn one step at a time. This is the marathon, a test, a story, a journey inward disguised as a journey across a city. A reminder that the human spirit, when asked, will go further than anyone expects. And maybe that's why we keep coming back. Not for the medals, not for the times, but for the truth that lives somewhere out there on the road, waiting to be discovered again.